So one of the first things I just want to sort of touch on, and I know you've been through some of these aspects yesterday, it's that whole thing about the root cause. And I sometimes think of it like weeding a garden. Because what you can do, if you go out into the garden and pull up the weeds really quickly, it'll look really nice, and you go, oh, good job. But literally, if that's all you've done, you know full well that those weeds are going to grow back faster, harder, stronger, bigger, if you don't kind of get it at the root. So one of the things that really changed things for me was getting to the root cause. And it came down to that whole thing about being worthwhile. Because for me, ultimately, I didn't believe I was good enough. And when you don't believe you're good enough, that filters through every single area of your life. I didn't have many friends when I was growing up. Who would want to talk to me? Who would want to hang out with me? So that filtered into there. I used to pick partners that I thought were better than me, and I would be grateful just to have someone, because who would want to go out with me? You know, literally in terms of work, I didn't apply for jobs. Now, just to put it into context, because you might go, well, yeah, okay, so you studied those things. Just to kind of pre-frame some of that, to give you a real understanding of how much I sabotaged myself. By the time I graduated and I did my business studies degree, I already had 5 years worth of work experience, and I mean serious work experience. I worked for the accounts department for what was the Harrods Group back then, House of Fraser and Harrods. So I worked for the accounts department for 5 years, also did export and personnel, so I had a lot of work experience. I was also a PA at Birmingham University, working for an MSc course, working for a course director. I also had a postgraduate secretarial diploma, typing, shorthand, word processing. I was the most qualified person in my class at university, and I was one of the only people that didn't go through for the milk round because I was too scared. Even though my resume was like a full-blown working resume, because I had that whole thing, I'm not good enough. Because why would anybody want to employ me? Why would anyone want to listen to me? And the root cause is not always blatantly obvious. Sometimes it can be really quite small and innocuous. Because if it was blatantly obvious, like flashing like a beacon, quite frankly, you would have sorted it out already. You wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it doesn't have to be earth-shattering, it doesn't have to be major. But I just start saying to people, think about, if you were to know, what do you ultimately believe about yourself? What's the thing that if you didn't believe that, would then allow everything else to change? And that's one of the things I just say to people, start thinking about that. And also, if they say, well, I think it's I say, so if that were to change, what impact would that have on the rest of your life? And if they sort of go, oh, well, that problem there would go, but I'd still have all of these, that's when I say, well, maybe that's not quite the root cause, what else? And you know you're moving in the right direction, where you say, if that problem were to change, everything else would fall into place. Because when I let go of the root cause belief, I'm not good enough, then I started thinking, well, of course people want to hear what I've got to say. Well, of course I could get a decent job. Well, of course, and it was almost like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do that? So really just start thinking about, what are some of the beliefs that you hold about yourself, fundamentally as a person, fundamentally as a human being, and if you were to change them, what impact would it have on your life? And Carol, you mentioned earlier the domino effect. It is almost like the domino effect, where when you let that belief go, everything else starts going. And also, it's sometimes a little bit of a labyrinth. So there'll be the layers that you need to go through sometimes. And you don't need to work on everything at once, because to try and pull that tree up in one go, with all of that stuff going on underneath, might be a little bit tricky. But literally, untangling some of those things, starting to release some of those things, at the rate at which you feel comfortable, that's when you start making some progress. Now, I'm a kind of, yeah, how long we got? Right, yeah, let's just get to it. Not everybody's like that. Some people like to do it in layers. I'm just like, let's go to the root cause and let's be done with it. But you will then know yourself, the pace at which you want to work. And you might think, well, why bother? Go to all that trouble. Why not just leave it all alone and pull the odd branch here and the odd leaf there and the odd flower there? But actually, one of the things that happens, and I know you spoke a lot about timelines yesterday, the speakers today have also spoken about the whole thing around the past, and one of the things that tends to happen, if you don't start sorting this stuff out, but you're in a place where you are ready to, what happens is, stuff from the past starts coming into the present. So you are reminded of things that happened in the past. They then start impacting what's happening for you now. You also have those whole things about your beliefs and expectations. They will filter out into the future. And then, the clever thing about us human beings is, the whole thing around a self-fulfilling prophecy, we can make it real. We can think about stuff, put enough energy into it, and lo and behold, that's what will happen. Because often